So we'll call the
That was
meeting.
an official announcement.
Jessica's on.
Okay, we'll call the meeting to order. And first item of business are the minutes from the 3rd of February. Any comments on those minutes?
They look fine.
Okay, motion to approve those minutes.
So move. Second?
Okay.
Favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Well levels. Greg?
Okay, well, it's been a long time that we've been speaking. My I guess, summary is that the conflicting water level results are in the well height aquifer because in the deeper depth monitoring wells and the shallow, basically what we have is the big four wells are still well below the medium. I think the shallower wells are mostly above the median, so that's kind of like what we expect. Especially some of this is going to be impacted by the warming trend that we've had here. We're not like pouring water onto frozen ground.
Just, I know that you distributed this March, but it's a February 19th reading.
Say that again?
I know that it was distributed in March, but it is the reading of February, it's saying February 19th, section 3. When are our most
Actually,
recent readings?
that looks like I didn't do that correctly. February,
I
no.
was having some trouble figuring out, are we February in our data or are we till March in our data?
No, this is actually not, this is the meeting that we didn't have.
This is the earlier one. There's one that you distributed to us, which I think was March 9th.
Through the email.
Yeah.
Through the email.
And online. So.
Right.
Yeah, this is the older stuff.
Okay, yeah, what it should be telling you is the reading date was March 9.
Correct?
So nobody has that, right, except me.
Well, you have it in, you
We have it in
distributed it in
email.
email.
Yeah.
Yeah, I distributed it in an email, and that was the right one that I distributed in an
Yes,
email,
that was
right?
the correct one, correct. What we have here is.
I didn't bring it, so.
Okay. Do this. What's the best way to go with this? I think then we just roll over into,
Well, what you said in your email was slight improvement in the average, significant improvement to Congdon.
I think that would be correct. Let's see what it,
But
yeah.
the big four wells still kind of hanging back relative to the shallower wells seeing a pickup.
In the February numbers, it was about a 9% when I averaged them, and now it's 13. So it's kind of bumped up a little bit. And again, there was we had 3 wells that weren't functioning correctly right now.
Right.
The USGS is looking at that. The shallower wells are basically above the median, above the 50th percentile, so that's good news. Again, as we've always seen, that once it starts, it takes a longer time to percolate down to the aquifer because there's that much more soil between the surface.
You had no recommendation, you weren't recommending a change in our messaging.
Yes, I just, that's what we've been doing, and I think that, it's at 13%, which is, that's below that 20 percentile that we wanted to raise the flag up. We could call it abnormally dry, not knowing that and what I'll show you in a couple minutes of the handout that I just did, I mean, we've already started, the Goat Hill is bouncing up already. It's,
Right. Well, it's hard to imagine that we're not going to see improvement,
yeah,
given where we're at.
yeah. I put that down, you know, I thought that because we're counting on the rainfall, we're going to get rainfall today, as far as I know, on the long-term forecast, there's really no rainstorms. There's 2 days with showers, which may or may not, like 50%. So to the end of March, what we're going to get out of this storm is about what we're going to get. It just seemed like it's a step too soon to make a change to abnormally dry. But, you know, it certainly, you know, you've done that. Peter's done this a long time. What would your thought be? You know, in terms of how we want to charge this, if things don't go well, maybe the thing to do is to take out the thing I just handed you guys. Frederick, this thing here that
State.
According to what I've read in his email.
Yeah, I don't remember. I don't recall it.
all right, we're just gonna have to do this. There's it's a two-sided page. This is from January 1, all right, which has got the big highlight, that this was the highest peak that we had here and it was, as you could see, where it went down. And at the very tail end of that chart, if you go on to the other side, now the scale is different, but we went from the lowest value we had since December 1 was 5.24 feet. The latest, it's at 5.63 feet. But when you look at the way, is that it went down, we've been kind of hanging very level here for some period of time, but it took a drop of, it went down to it was at about 5.2 for some period of time. And now we're starting to see at the very end, that little uptick. But I think that I don't have much experience of what happens when the ground is frozen solid. As long as I've been doing this, we haven't had a lot of, hasn't been a lot of stone, haven't been a lot of, 5-degree temperatures.
Right, but we know we shouldn't overestimate how much the snow contributes, because we know that it looks huge and it's not that.
Yeah, I mean, I think the rule of thumb that people usually follow is an inch is 10 inches. 10 inches of snow is 1 inch of water.
Right. But at the same time, we also know the grounds have been wet, the ground has been wet continuously for weeks now. Ever since we've come up above freezing.
Yeah, since we've,
and we've had rain on top of snow.
Yes.
Right, and
yeah.
So anyway, I mean, from my point of view, it's like, and nobody's out here just yet, but starting after our next meeting, it starts to become active season out here.
Correct.
So which means that's you target next season for whatever communication you're going to, and obviously we've already learned that, there's not a huge amount that individuals can do about the fact that we're in a drought. Right? It's more of an awareness kind of thing, and awareness of how that might impact you, which might be different depending on where you are. So.
Okay, so on that point, I recall at our January meeting, I believe it was, we talked about posting on the website an explanation of a grocery store English explanation of this data, where it comes from, what it means, what it doesn't mean. And I was tasked to write a couple of pages, which I have done. And I think I circulated at some point. This is an updated version of that. 1, 2, 3. And one more for Meg. So this is an updated version, and I would like you, don't read it, well, we don't have time to read it now, but can you read it and react to it? By email. And what it does is, first of all, it starts with the graph of the average of the four wells, big four wells on a seasonally adjusted basis.
Okay.
It starts with that graph. Then it defines the y-axis, which is the average height over mean sea level of fresh water in those four wells over time. The x-axis is time, the y-axis is.
All right.
And then it gives an assessment of what we think of that data. So do we think we're in good shape? Do we think we're in not good shape? And the assessment essentially is, the current assessment is, we're below the mean. Sorry, we're below the median for this on a seasonally adjusted basis. We're concerned because we're going into the period of the year when we're going to have the heavy withdrawals.
Right.
And this should be, say here, we could face a very dry summer, and wells located where the aquifer is the thinnest, generally along the shore, will experience stress first and to the greatest extent. So in other words, don't take this as something that's absolute. It's an absolute metric. Take it as an indicator of potential stress on your well. So that's the message. And then it goes into how the metric is calculated, what the metric actually means, and what it doesn't mean. So, Joe, you and I have had some conversations about this metric, and I know you are eager that it not be misinterpreted. So I'm curious about your reaction, or if you could read this and get us your comments on it. But I'm trying to, I believe you made the request for, let's get something on the website that explains this in terms that people can understand and relate to their own experience. And so that's what this tries to do. Somebody has to read it. It's not just a text or a.
Right, well.
But, so they got to read it, they got to think about it. So I'll just leave that
You're
with
going to
you.
put that out there for comment back.
Right.
I don't see that you sent it out.
No, I don't think we've got
email.
it.
I don't see that we.
Okay,
received
then
it
I
in
will
email, but
do
It's
that.
worth doing that because then you have the document.
Yes, I will do that.
Yeah.
I thought Greg wrote that. I sent my email to you. I thought that was.
Okay, all right, so that's on my
That's what it meant, because I was.
send
It says, that's fine.
website text. Okay, so, but that was a useful challenge, Peter, get us to do this.
To say.
So this is the response, a draft response. So look for it in your email and let's get comments back and see if we can get something up either by or before the next meeting when people are arriving.
So basically an explanation of what we've seen on March 9th.
Yes.
Mhm.
And the idea is that this text would get updated as we go on in life and get more data.
Mhm.
But the basic structure of it in terms of how the data definition, how it's calculated, what the metric means, what the metric doesn't mean, that would pretty much stay the same.
Mhm.
But the second section, which is WAC's assessment of the most recent data, that will change as the data changes.
Right.
It seems to me the perverse thing is we'll have to see how much is trapped in the soil and how the big wells react over the next month or so. But assuming that there's some amount trapped in the soil and that we get some light amount of rain, we could show next month where the big wells have rebounded a bit, but still below their 25%, but all the shorelines, because they absorb it quickly and more readily, actually get up to 70, 80%, of the median or something like that. And so it's confusing because the messaging makes it sound like the immediate risk, but then, at least as I think about it, then we are back to the kind of typical in near shore where it's really more dependent that we're getting consistent rain rather than we're starting out from a very low point. Yeah. So it's already, bad. So, it's kind of interesting. I'm not sure we've been in this dynamic where we could be entering summer where the shore is high, but we're not seeing the bounce back in the big wells.
The big four really reflect.
Right. And typically in an environment, we're like, okay, we're concerned about nearshore, but nearshore could actually look reasonably healthy and is more dependent on that we're going to get consistent rain in June, July, August to be replenishing rather than. So it's just kind of a perverse, nature of the way.
We don't know the response rate on the.
Yeah, so we'll have to see.
Maybe slower. Is there beta for the response?
Yeah.
Are they more sensitive than the big wells?
Yeah. And we'll see next month, I guess.
Maybe Joe.
So this vehicle, I agree with you. That's a very interesting point. This vehicle could be a way to kind of explain that thinking as it evolves over time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because this stuff is difficult to figure out.
Mm-hmm. All right, and in that sense, I'm thinking ahead in that if we felt compelled to take some action of some sort, our gut is typically, let's do something for let's protect near shore. But the near shore may actually look okay. So if your actions are then targeting near shore, it's perverse because you're people,
Yeah.
right? So you may say, we actually don't do anything, right? We make people sensitive, but it's going to be more reactionary to the amount of rainfall we're getting as we, on a continual basis. I don't know if that makes sense.
I also think that we have to decide what is it that we're trying to do by raising awareness. Sometimes what you do by raising awareness is just get people to create further problems by lots of complaints that don't really have a solution. Mm-hmm. I think that, for people in near shore, the best thing to encourage them to do is know your water. Test your, do you have chloride intrusion? Do you have to be thinking about, do you need RO? What do you need to have potable water? And not be up in arms about what my neighbor is doing. Or, at the same time, we're wanting to reassure people that we're putting appropriate limits in place. So I think that it's not so bad to be a little bit analytical in the material, not political, but analytical, and saying you can't quite tell from this and from that. And ultimately all paths lead to, and so you need to check your individual well.
Yes, that's clear.
Right. Mm-hmm. Right. So I guess the point is that, I've not always been the last person to light my hair on fire, but I think actually it's important with drought levels where people can't individually do a lot about it, that we're trying to kind of reduce the amount of burden on the building department from complaints coming in. We're trying to figure out where reasonable and effective limitations can be put in place. So I think that it's, I almost want to make, right now on our homepage, we have that big yellow drought status thing, and that leads to an explanation of the drought levels. So I just, again, I wonder where this goes exactly on our homepage and how it gets represented, and visually how it gets represented in such a way that what it encourages is for people to understand that we're trying to do the analytics and that they can try to wrap their heads around it, get deeper in over here, and less about like, oh, we're in a crisis. Even if we are, potentially a drought kind of situation. I almost would like to see the line, a thumbnail of this graph on the homepage, so people see this is analytical material that you can dive deeper into and see what it is we do.
Yeah, this is not a bell, this is not supposed to be a bell ringer.
Right.
Light your hair on fire.
Right.
Whatever. This is supposed to be a presentation of the data. And
What does it mean?
And what does it mean?
Right.
What's the most recent data and what does it mean and what does it not mean?
Mhm.
Not, let's go light our hair on fire.
Mhm.
Yeah, okay. Okay. Anything more on that item of the agenda? Next, Joe, where are we with the scope and cost of the USGS 10-year baseline study?
We are moving glacially slow, unintended. USGS has asked again for some more time to send us the revised scope. I don't have any updates, any meaningful updates on this item and the next item on the agenda.
Okay, let's just make sure that the last proposal we had from them was, as I recall, a 4-year proposal of circa $270,000. And we had a phone call with them, which I participated in. This is challenging my memory. And we asked them to phase it, see if they could reduce the scope. We said we did want the analytical, we did want their assessment. And that was in the November kind of timeframe. It was after the shutdown in the fall, government shutdown in the fall. And then I received something from you which confused me, which was, it was actually from them. That was an entirely different approach. And I didn't really know whether that was a response to our request that they changed the scope, or kind of how it fit into how it was responsive to the discussion we had in November. So can you help me with that?
Yes. Our discussion with them back in November largely focused on a justification, asking for a justification of the increased cost. Yep. And there's a couple of pieces of that discussion that require some more elaboration. The first is that I believe we misunderstood what our cost was for the earlier studies.
Okay.
We had a smaller number in mind that turns out was not the total cost of the effort. Yep. So we were entering into this second proposal, or this new 10-year proposal, thinking that it cost us, this is just a made-up number, $10,000, when in fact it really had cost us $80,000.
Correct, that's right.
We didn't know that at the time that we met with them.
Yep.
So we imparted on them a high priority for cost reduction. They revisited the proposal and they came up with a few ideas as to how we could reduce the price of their new 10-year baseline study. But many of those ideas involved reducing the number of constituents, reducing the testing, the scale of time with which we were collecting them. And at that time, we had made a decision, but that was helpful to understand where the cost drivers were, what the variables were. And since then, they have asked for some time to revisit this again and say, perhaps we can remove some constituents, juggle I guess they're looking for a hybrid approach. And that's what we're waiting for. Now, we had discussed internally that if we remove these constituents and shorten the list, what is our ability to connect this new study with the last study?
Right.
And I think absent the new scope, hybrid scope from USGS, it will be hard to make a decision. But we're asking them to put forth what they believe to be scientifically and analytically relevant in a scope, and attach the price to that so we can make a choice.
When are we likely to get
We're
that?
supposed to have it last month, then we're supposed to have it this month for this meeting specifically, the March meeting. And so now, my emphasis is on before next month's WAC meeting.
I applaud your clarity of the explanation.
So some errors on both sides of the table on this.
Send them on a wild goose chase.
Yeah,
Okay,
and they actually informed us that the cost was not what we
yeah,
had thought it was. So, thanks.
Did they say what?
They did. I don't remember what it was.
so it'd be nice to know that when we talk about this, nice to know what was our cost 10 years ago?
Yeah.
So we have can make a valid comparison.
Yes, we had been under the impression these were order of magnitude increases.
Yes, correct.
In fact, they weren't. They are higher, but I
Yeah,
think they
You
are.
would expect.
I think they are more aligned with what we would expect, given the amount of time
okay,
and what we perceive to be normal increase in costs, rather than this huge question mark. How did we jump up
yes.
this significantly? I think we've ruled out that issue.
So when we discuss this in substance, we should have a 2016 we should have a full cost of what we did 10 years ago. If it was spread over a couple of fiscal years, and then those should all be summed up against the proposed cost now, the methodology, number of wells, duration, analytes, all that, 10 years ago versus today. Because the point of this is to get into a 10-year cycle where we can actually develop some trends. As Peter says, 2 years doesn't make, two cycles doesn't make a trend.
Data points, right.
That we can actually understand what's going on over time. So, okay. All right, I'm going to leave it on the agenda so that we don't lose the string, so to speak. Okay,
I mean, maybe they're putting too fine a point on it. Should just give us a.
I tend to think that, but I don't have a good sense of how they function
Yeah.
to know
No,
with certainty.
don't tell them how to do their.
Yeah, it's I'll stay in my lane, but I have been communicating with them that this is somewhat time sensitive. We need to keep the momentum moving on this.
Had a 15-year study.
Yeah,
right,
yeah. Well, it takes, as it's structured now, it's 3 years worth of
yeah,
test collections for the
Yeah.
10 years.
In theory, would start this year if you're on the 10-year cycle.
Yeah.
okay, so that covers 5 also. Which is the saltwater intrusion study update, right? We don't have a proposal from them either on that,
No.
okay?
Those are different people also that will, it's not
Within the USGS.
the USGS.
Right, but we do have a well for measuring the saltwater intrusion from the bottom up in the center now.
Yes, and that has started. And so the last few months, it hesitated to revisit the saltwater intrusion study because we wanted to see what happened with these new data collection options. And so now I'm trying to re-engage with them with these new wells online to see how this impacts our potential scope.
Okay. All right.
I'll just add to that, to put some more clarity on what our options are now. We had previously entertained snapshot saltwater data, electromagnetically measured data through the installation of these reading arrays, specifically located at certain points in the aquifer to measure instantaneously what the saltwater relationship
A
was.
snapshot because somebody's coming in, visiting and setting up.
It's a reading at that day, at that time, where the saltwater interface is.
On a monitor that's installed and kept.
No. When we had initiated that scope of work, the idea that we could collect real-time data from saltwater monitoring wells didn't exist. So a large portion of that scope was to pay for these folks to come and take readings and then analyze that data and produce the results for us. But another option now is that we let these two wells collect data over time. And instead of having that
But both are in the center.
no, one is at Wade's Beach,
Okay,
near shore, shallow, and the other is in the center.
okay.
And so those two are working, well, they don't know they're working together, but they are providing us with competing or complementary data about the two extents of the aquifer, the deepest part and the shallowest parts. And so one option for this saltwater intrusion study is simply to let these do their work. They are part of a larger Long Island saltwater monitoring well study, but they just happen to be in our territory. So we are able to, and what we're trying to been developing with USGS is perhaps we forego the snapshot data collection and we simply ask them to help us evaluate this data on a more local level that's being collected from these wells, which are part of a bigger network, which they are studying. That was the purpose of the wells.
Is that network online?
It is. Yes, it is.
Sure.
I don't have that yet because it's just become online, but that's part of the stuff,
That's excellent.
yeah, that we're trying to hash out is to get access to this, to understand how long will that have to be before we, are able to draw conclusions from the data. And those are the answers that I haven't got yet. My presumption is it would take a while.
Yeah,
We need to see several
With all of this stuff.
years or at least several seasonal changes. Yeah.
Because you're looking for a relationship between what's the level of that interface in the center versus a level of that interface.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, this ties very much into the conversation we had a few moments ago about what do these well readings mean? How do they influence policy decisions or restrictions, guidelines? These two saltwater wells will tell us what that dynamic is, what the relationship is between what's happening here in the middle and what's happening at the extent of the aquifer, but sort of at the opposite place. We're looking with these monitoring wells at the top only, trying to draw conclusions from the level. But realistically, if you're the nearshore homeowner, you really care more about what's happening at the bottom.
Yeah.
Is that interface coming inward, coming landward? Is it coming upward? And these wells will give us much greater insight into that component of the aquifer. And frankly, I think that's
It's nice.
more relevant to what we're trying to derive.
And it'll be also interesting to see if they do correlate, it may be that the center well remains rock solid where it is and the nearshore one varies.
That's right.
So, right, which would again strengthen our case for, we have a substantial reserve in the center, we're vulnerable at the shore.
Yes, it's so much more complex, obviously, when you look at the specific neighborhoods we have and the aquifer isolation that you have inherently between, like Ram Island's not connected to Montclair area. Right there. Exactly. So with 2 points, it's, we can't make neighborhood specific conclusions, but the Wade's Beach data point should be telling us throughout the season, our high pumping season, low pumping season, what is happening with those chlorides. And that will indicate to us perhaps how active that interface is. is it as active as we thought, or is it less, is this something that's encroaching within the landward boundaries of Shelter Island, or is this something that's perhaps, happening much further offshore than we imagined and not so relevant? And that will help us conclude when homeowners are reporting issues with salt water, chlorides. Is this a well-specific issue? Is this because of the wells?
Behavior specific.
Is it right? Exactly. Well, right. When I say well-specific, both the inherent installation parameters of the well, how deep it is, how large it is, where it's drawing from, the pump size, and how much it's running. So we should be able to answer a lot of those questions.
Thank you.
I mean, at a somewhat anecdotal level, based on what you said, it sounds like you answered the question of, can we just use these two wells for now versus the other? I mean, it sounds, in some ways, it sounds like you leaned in, by nature of your, not intentionally, but that, why do you need the other one times if we have this data?
For the other neighborhoods.
Yeah.
For the places that we would identify areas that we think are perhaps outside of that direct relationship between the 2 points. We're talking about Wade's Beach and the center here, but those snapshot locations would be used to supplement in areas that we understand to be
That's different.
hydrogeologically isolated. And so you could tie them in with the time, but know that something else is happening there.
So this actually brings up, this relates to a discussion that has been going on with the irrigation subcommittee, which is the idea that there is a center, there's a nearshore overlay, and then there's a peninsular nearshore area that we have on Shelter Island.
Mm-hmm.
The Wade's Beach is a perfect example of nearshore but non-peninsular. And so it may be important for us to be, really taking the 3 or 4 peninsulars that we all can name and making treating them as a distinct ecosystem, water system from the rest of the island.
Yeah, definitely. These wells are I really can't understate, I think, how helpful they will be for us. First, because it didn't cost us anything, so that's a great start, right? We would never endeavor on this as a township alone. But, when we spent a lot of time talking about the well levels and how to convey this information to the public in a useful way and what kind of restrictions to put on water usage. But understanding what's happening below the fresh water is so much more relevant. And it helps us get away from this idea that we're talking about. When we measure from the top, it inherently makes you think you're talking about a reservoir, like a bank of water that's confined. And we're just seeing how high is it, because that's indicative of what's in it. But our aquifer doesn't really work like that. The height of the fresh water that we're measuring is really more like a pressure gauge than it is a level reading. The higher we are above sea level, the more we're pushing outward and keeping the salt water further away. But we don't have a good understanding of how far away that really is. It's elsewhere on Long Island, for instance, the saltwater freshwater interface is miles offshore in the ocean. Those are bigger aquifers, different circumstances, but it gives you a sense of scale as to how far away that is. And it may be migrating, but it's still quite far away. So for us to understand if our interface is in fact that far away or quite close will allow us to make much more informed decisions. And by monitoring just from the top, I think we lose that sense of connection to what we're trying to accomplish. And these restrictions on the public, like shorter showers and things, are helpful for like the impact, the like connection.
The mindfulness.
The mindfulness, right. But, understanding that millions of gallons of fresh water exit the aquifer system every day from the perimeter versus the 15 that you save from taking the shower.
And that's all going back into the aquifer.
Which also goes right back into the aquifer.
Except for the little bit that evaporates off your body into your bathroom.
And steam and
It's
yeah.
It's TMI.
Just interesting. Do we not know today whether the saltwater interface corresponds in some ways to the boundary of the land, or if it extends, how much it extends out beyond the land and into shallow water or whatever? Do we not really know that today?
Well, first, it's dynamic. And second, it's hyper specific to the locale. There are parts of the island where we have very high levels, high groundwater head, which is what we're measuring here, head above sea level, where it can penetrate into the salt water, the estuary at the greater gradient. So like Shelter Island Heights, for instance, where, or like along the Sound, Shelter Island Sound, where the height of the aquifer is quite high, so you'd expect that interface to be further
out.
It's high near shore.
It's high near shore, right? So it's more pressure.
Naturally, the pressure, it's going to be out further.
Right.
Yep.
But other areas where, we know that the groundwater lens is much thinner as it approaches that shoreline.
By nature of pressure, you would think it's closer by, yeah.
Right. Now, the point you made earlier, Sean, about how the new
With the expectation that if you had very, very high readings in the center, you'd expect the boundary to be shifting outward.
exactly what we would want to see that.
You'd want to see if that's true.
And perhaps what is that difference in time? By late summer, when the center is lower, are we seeing that shift in the shallow saltwater wells, or perhaps it's delayed?
The other thing about having consistent real-time readings on ongoing readings is that while most of this stuff is happening at geological timescales, we don't quite know that climate change driven sea level rise is happening at those kinds of timescales. They may be more within the decadal timescales that we're looking at with these various studies. So it would be nice to know.
Or event-driven.
Now, sorry?
Or event-driven. I mean, a severe weather event with very high water can have an immediate impact.
On saltwater intrusion, I think.
Yes.
Hurricane Sandy did.
So I guess the point
Well, given there's a climate-driven.
exactly, it just may not be the slow ticking sea level rise.
Right.
Effect only.
You see the top of the aquifer, the freshwater aquifer, just in reacting to tides, it moves daily, but.
Right, and that's saltwater tides, so that is the pedestal, not the, yeah.
Pushes up, drops down.
Okay. It's a good discussion.
Yeah, very good too.
Good.
Hydrology
It
101.
leads, well, you say it.
Dan, welcome. Dan Williams from the high school.
Dan. Thank you. Are you got a presentation? Hi, if you don't remember, I'm Dan Williams.
Hi, Dan.
How are you?
Welcome back. Local high school teacher. We've been working on the saltwater intrusion testing from drinking water. And I just have a preliminary report. I had been talking to Mr. Ruby about the idea of students coming in, so I didn't want to show everything because I want the students to come and present what they've done and what they've learned and such like that. But basically, we've tested 74 samples, I believe, at this point. And the only reason why we stopped was we ran out of materials, and I know that the materials have been ordered. I don't believe they've come in yet.
It might be in.
They might be in. Okay.
Jessica, I think, said they were showing up.
Okay. So as soon as I have them, we've got eager students, and we'll get those right out. Plus, I brought them with food, so we'll go nice and easy.
And they'll be back from vacations.
So, well, yeah, the seniors right now. That's why we didn't want to do it today. The seniors are on a trip. So if you just press the next slide, please. So this is just, some of the students working in the classroom. I try to take pictures without them knowing that I'm taking pictures, though some of them smiling, you can tell that I got in there. But the idea is that the students did all of the work. This was nothing that was done by any of the teachers, except for that we did go in and run a couple of test kits themselves to see if we got consistent results. So we did run through a couple just to make sure. And also we tried to troubleshoot as students to see how we could screw it up, to see if anything could go wrong. And I'm hoping that most, if not all of these young people will come in and then present what they've learned. Because we did this as an AP Environmental, a Marine Science, and a Science Club event. Now, I know when you're looking at that list of students, some of those students are in 2 different things, but we're also a small school. So if we can get 6, 8 different students doing something in various areas, that's not bad for our population. And then getting into the results would be the next slide. We had a series of over 200 parts per million, I believe it is. And I put them into this Google map. And we were just talking about Waits Beach when I walked in. And Waits Beach, I don't have so what I put in is the samples that are over 200 parts per million. And
In the red.
in the red. And
12
so,
if I recall.
what's that?
12, if I recall.
There were 12 samples
Yeah.
like
There
that?
were 12, yeah. Well, one of them, it turns out, was the same address twice.
Ah,
I didn't know that until I was putting the stuff in. We just get it, enter the phone numbers, and place it in. But one of them, I recognize this, I put it in, and suddenly it's like, oh, it was the same exact area. So what I'd like to do now is go back and look at the samples, and I wanted the students to do a lot of the data analysis. Oh, if you don't mind. So what I would really like to see is if we have anybody down in this area here, based off of the conversation that we were just talking about, because obviously that didn't show up in the drinking wells. We knew in the West Neck area that it was going to be an issue because we had a couple that the students were like, oh, this is mine, can we test it? And sure enough, it would be an issue. But I also, it's a little covered over in the upper right, and I wanted the students to talk about it a little bit more. But that's a screenshot from a map done on a water study back in the mid-1980s. And what the water study shows, again, biologist, not somebody who does this for a living, but what it seems to show is clearly that you have a lot of isolines up in there with a high pressure of fresh water. And then, of course, down in here, there's nothing listed, because the way I understood it was that's all, there was no fresh water found in that area. And that's, of course, what we're finding here is that we're finding, salt within there. But I also noticed up in north in Deering Harbor and up into this area here, very, very low back in the 1980s. And sure enough, we had 2 samples that popped right on the shore. So it wasn't something that was very far in, it was right on the shore, which I thought was really interesting. What I'm gonna have the students do is they're gonna put in all the other plot points to see if we have a lot of, say, green mixed in these areas with red. Also, if we have some maybe that didn't hit 200, but were a bit high. So we'll have them color code those in there. And then finally, there's the one smack dab in the center of the island.
Yes.
And,
Is that
you know,
yours?
it's-
looking at that, I'm like, what the hell?
yeah.
Okay.
And so that could be a number of things. I mean, it could be error. So now that we've placed that in there, that would be, I might have enough water. We kept all the water, so we can go back and we numbered them, not based off of the address, we just numbered them off of the samples. And so we will definitely, when we get the new kits, we'll have the students go back and redo that one, just to make sure. The good news is on the duplicate, they both popped up over 200. So it wasn't like one was 200 and the other one was lower, they both popped over 200. So when we did actually test one, and the teachers themselves, we went in and tested a couple just to make sure, and they all came up with the same exact numbers. And what we're finding is when they show over 200, they really show over 200. It's the ones that are 50 parts per million, 75 parts per million, there's a little bit of wiggle room, but it was never a matter of, is that really, it's color change right away.
90,
It was 200. Yeah, it was an instant color
we
change.
could get test kits with a broader range. Yeah, when we're evaluating what range to get, of course, the 0 to 200 has the most sensitivity down in the low ends, but you can get it up for 400 part per million test kit, you know, if that's
So the individual homeowners.
That's possible to do, to get a broader
get more
range.
sensitivity.
But it won't be as sensitive on the low end. See, that's the trade-off.
Right.
You know, I don't know, maybe dilute it, do a dilution on the
We tried just to play around in the classroom to do some dilutions. We didn't want to use up a lot of kits.
Yeah,
It's not our money. But we did do a couple of dilutions. We also did a couple where we set up kind of a serial dilution of our own salt, just to kind of verify that what we're doing is right. But we didn't go down into low levels because we weren't that interested.
you got it. You got this.
You also have that interesting, the 2 points in West Neck, high-low, it looks like, area.
I think those are Westmoreland.
Westmoreland.
It's
I
Westmoreland.
don't know who the Hay Beach people are.
Yeah, and putting the green up there eventually will be interesting too. I live in Silver Beach, and it's not somewhat not surprising when you see kind of all those hits in that area. But it is also, there are unique situations sometimes in individual occasions. So it would be heartening to see that there's a lot of green, you know, as well, that, you know, it's sometimes either unique situations or, you know, in one way, but clearly there's a trend there as well of
But
saltwater intrusion.
it's not absolutely clear to me, you know, you have a chicken and egg where areas that are sensitive to the problem are likely to have been more responsive to the
Oh,
study.
yeah,
So
selection
we're
bias.
likely to have
Yes,
more.
exactly,
signals
yeah.
in that area.
Yeah, absolutely,
So
yeah.
it'll be great to see the yellow and green, or however you wind up color coding it, to look at distribution a little bit more as well. But the kids should feel proud. The kids are doing something real here.
Yeah, it's really helpful.
One last thing on this is that I think when we talk about, you know, biases and such, is I know of a couple of instances where, what do you mean I wasn't supposed to use filtered water? So we might come up with full screens because people, you know, it said, we're testing your drinking water. And I had one situation where a teacher gave me, you know, the water, and I was talking about how, you know, we're just testing it. I have a brand new filter, I have a brand new highfalutin filter system, and I want to see if it worked. And like, that's kind of
That's not the point, yeah.
So I just don't know how many did that as well. So adding in the greens is going to be important. We might have some false negatives too.
All of which is great to have the kids become sensitized,
Yes,
Yeah.
because we're trying to build an army for the future here.
yes.
And that's what you may well know, that's what Suffolk County does, is they tend to come to your house and they say, give me like an outdoor faucet that's not filtered, and then I'll take it also from your kitchen where if you have a filter, and so they can show you the contra.
And there was a couple of samples that were really, it wasn't cloudy, it was a brownish tint to them, really nasty pipes it looked like. And I wonder how much that's going to affect things. That shouldn't be salt, but you don't know what's in there when they're giving you something that
Iron
it's,
and,
yeah. But that shouldn't affect the chloride level to my knowledge, but I just wonder what else is going on. I mean, for all I know, that's the one dead center of the island. It just could be really nasty old
Something
pipes.
internally.
So it could be. But we will test that one again
Mhm.
and see what's going on once we get the new test kits.
Okay, so how much time would you like and when would you like it for the students to come in and present the whole thing?
I've been telling them 10 minutes tops for like 3 or 4 kids to come in and speak for upwards of 10 minutes, if that would be okay.
Okay, so 30 minutes,
30 minutes.
40 minutes
Okay?
at the April meeting.
So, well, I was thinking 10 minutes in total, not 10 minutes per kid.
I didn't know.
Yeah, I think the natural is you have some leeway there in that if they feel like they have things that they've
Okay.
looked at that they want to share,
Yes.
we should give them
Yes.
the audience.
Oh, that would be wonderful,
Yeah.
but I don't want to terrify, if I tell kids that we've got to be
No.
talking for 30 minutes.
No. But you could go 15, we're not going to cut you off, you could go 15 or 20,
be
like,
wonderful.
let's see what they want to say.
That would be absolutely wonderful, thank you. And then what I was hoping is that they would take it through the entire experience of what they've learned in the classroom,
Yes.
what they learned from the test, and what they hope to take out into the community.
Great.
So,
Question for you.
Yes, sir.
Related but not specific to this. One of the things we are trying to do over the summer is have a testing weekend, boots on the ground at IGA and whatever, where we're actually just encouraging people to go to Suffolk County to get a test. So we're trying to be in their face with applications, with an explanation of the process.
Why they
Do you know, why they need to do it, kind of thing, where unless you really are engaged in the topic, some people don't even know this is going on. Do you have any continuity over the summer with your kids that we might be able to tap some of your kids to volunteer and participate in that?
if you give me a date and some leeway for, it's in 2 months or something like
Yeah.
that, I can certainly get a group.
Okay. So we're going to try to figure out a date, hopefully at this meeting. And then if we let you know, and if a couple kids said I would definitely try and they just passed on their names, that would be great.
And
Or-
I'd like
or a
to
bunch
be
of kids,
part
yeah.
with my students if
Yeah.
that's at all possible.
Would love to. I mean, ideally, and they're likely, especially with your participation, to be the most reliable participants versus all the other adults that say they'll help and may not show up. So,
Not only
Yeah.
that, what they've been doing.
Yeah.
connects the dots.
Part of
Yeah.
it can be a part of.
Absolutely.
Engagement of the public, right?
So when you discuss dates, the first 2 weeks of July, I'm running conferences out of state, so I won't be here, but the rest of the summer, I'm planning on being in the area. So, and I could always pop over.
And we're actually thinking about late July.
Thinking about late July.
We're thinking about late July.
Late July, I'm around. Early July, I'm running conferences, but late July, I'm here during the week.
We'll make sure we communicate to you.
Okay, really appreciate that.
Great, no, we
I can get
appreciate what you're doing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, this is fun.
Yeah, this is,
No, this is great.
This is great.
It's science you can
And it's
use.
real.
Yeah.
In their own backyard,
Into the
which is great.
presentation, because I'm learning a lot.
Okay.
No, great.
All right, yes.
There may be 2 samples in the bin out by
I grabbed a couple just last week, but I'll take a look on my way walking back in.
it was a month ago that my sample was.
It was one of those, I really thought to myself, I said, I wonder if there's anything out, and it was 3 or 4 in there, I'm like, whoops, but we were already done with our tests, so they're up in my lab. And we didn't throw them out, I was assuming we'd get more kits, so they'll be coming.
That's great, thank you.
And I think you were asking about so that is the data public?
It's going up on the website.
Okay.
It's only retrievable by the homeowner who put the
phone number.
code number on,
Okay,
the phone number on
and is
the,
that live now?
it should be, but Jessica who isn't here
Okay.
today. But, she's got it in hand.
Okay.
They have the file, they just have to get it mounted on the website.
Okay, you're saying that to get your own specific test.
Yes,
You have to go onto our website to
Yes.
pull by your phone number to pull
yes,
up the,
it's.
and that's the way.
It's the
that
only
we're
way you can.
Because I
get
was
your
gonna
test.
ask, do those people know?
I haven't told them.
No,
Right, okay, and I wonder if if there's some obligation to inform the people who,
let's get it working
Yeah.
first, and then we can,
And if you're looking within your own world to extend the conversation with kids about this water. There's a lot of other things that we're looking at about forever chemicals that are showing up and plastics and, you know, and things like that. So there's a lot more that we're kind of going down this
We
road.
just did microplastics within the environment. We just did that where we were just taking water samples right out of the bay and filtrating them down in the classroom and then looking under the microscope for microplastics. Shocking how much we found.
Yes.
Sadly though, I would really need like a FTIR to be able to zap them and to tell that it's plastic, not something else. So I'm working with.
Sorry,
those.
FDIR?
Fourier transform infrared. So I need to be able to hit them with something and then be able to get a
Response.
spectroscopy graph off of it to make sure that this is doable. My chemistry colleague was working on something very similar in her undergrad. So we're trying to find some way to do this or some access. I know B&L has it, and I could, possibly work on that. But I'm also meeting with other teachers later this week about doing that kind of thing with the microplastics. So it's also on our radar very big, sadly.
Yes.
Okay.
It'll be really a pleasure to meet your students.
Yes,
Yeah.
It will really be a pleasure.
we're looking forward to that.
All
Yeah.
right.
Okay?
All right. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
That's what I thought, maybe. Thank you. All right. Have a great day now.
You too.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, item 7, Center Triangle private well testing.
Right.
Joe and I met with Jason Heim and his team about 3 weeks ago. Takeaway was to identify the properties, which Joe has done. So we're doing, remember, 3 zones, 9, 11, and 4. We're doing approximately 100 wells. We've
150, 160?
on that list.
Yeah.
Okay. And so we've got the wells, we've got the properties identified, taxpayers identified, we've got a mailing list and so forth. In addition, our job was to write a letter, which we've drafted up, which I'm giving to you in hard copy to read because I'd like each member of the committee to sign it. And so
And you sent this, you did send us all.
I will send you an updated version of this, because it's probably got to be used.
Email? Okay.
I will send, Joe and I have changed it a little bit, so I will send it.
It's also being reviewed by
Yeah.
Jason and his team.
Have we heard back from them yet?
No, but I would expect this week.
Okay. All right. Now, you'll see a blank on page 2 where we're suggesting that we have an information session. And the schedule is, Joe, we haven't talked about this in the last day or two, but the idea was get this letter out by the 31st of March to all these property owners with a due date. In other words, they have to get back to us and either the letter goes out, the letter has the form that the Suffolk County uses for the well test and a self-addressed stamped envelope mailed to Suffolk County. They have to get that filled out and in the mail, yes or no, by April 30. So the idea was to have an information session early in April, after they've gotten the letter, but before the due date.
For them.
For them. Anybody can come,
Right.
but
it's
for them. So can we pick that date? And Meg, I know that you've had a lot of experience doing this kind of stuff, so
Are you thinking of holding the meeting here?
well, you need
I
to,
feel like that would make sense. We could do it by Zoom too, if,
well, I would do it here.
Yeah.
Um,
because then I'm just gonna look at the calendar and see when we're available.
Do we want to do it hybrid?
Well, it's an option. We could do it hybrid if we do it in this room.
Also have a recording in case
Yeah, let's do
All
it.
of the above is.
Yeah, let's do it in this room. Let's do it hybrid because we'll get more people attending.
Mhm.
Yeah, because
It'll be a
April,
bit-
people are still here, there, and everywhere. They're not really back for the season yet.
Right. And we've got a number of people who aren't here full-time.
Mhm.
And we'll be getting the letter they get their tax bill at that address. So, okay, first couple of weeks in April,
Okay, I'm going to recommend that we avoid the week of April 6th to the 12th because that's spring break for the school, so a lot of people will be away. So maybe the week of April 13th or the week of April 20th. When is the deadline for this? April
They have to have it in April 30th.
April
So
3rd.
the week of April 20th, you're clear of their tax filings and you're clear and you're into,
That's true.
you know, everybody's kind of into a new year of.
And we have open space in the town calendar.
Right.
So,
And we have a water advisory committee meeting on the 20th.
right, I would recommend the 22nd, 23rd, or 24th. Are you thinking during the day or in the evening?
When do you think we'll get the best attendance?
Probably during the evening.
Gotta do evening, yeah.
Are you okay with the 21st?
We can do the 21st after 4 o'clock.
Okay,
Um,
how about the 21st at 6 o'clock? Okay,
yeah, you can do the, I mean, if you wanted to, you could also do the 20th in the evening
After our meeting,
after your meeting.
that works for me.
You think 6 o'clock start?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Monday the 20th.
all right.
We'll check with Jess and make sure there aren't any conflicts, but I don't see any in the calendar.
Okay, so I will send this letter, the latest copy of this letter by email to all of you. If you could get back to me and indicate your willingness
To
to sign it, and I will take silence as yes.
okay.
Okay?
Meg, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
It's Jessica. Hi. That I don't see any conflict with that, so I'm okay with that.
Okay, thanks, Jess.
Okay, thank you, Jessica.
It sounds great. I have only one question, if
Yep,
questions, if it's time for questions. How did it sounds like a nice density in 9, 11, and 4 in those zones. On what basis are you kind of making a selection of homes to reach
That's
out?
everybody.
You're taking the each of those zones?
Yes, that's everybody. Yeah,
That's great.
yeah, because we were so far below the amount that we had requested.
Right. Well, that's good on a lot of levels. You know, my concern has been people who've gotten iffy tests in in the earlier round. I feel like we owe it to them to get them over the hump of like, okay, what is my water? What's my PFAS level? Whereas before what we gave them was, oh, you have like high nitrogen. So
Yeah, so they haven't been notified. If we want to change that approach, we can cut the number down. Go with there's a lot of mechanisms to do. I looked at even address, odd address, but
right now, let's cast the net wide.
I think based on the number of properties in that in those zones and the number of tests that we have budgeted, perceived response of maybe 50% or less, that why delay inviting people? We may as well
Invite everybody.
invite everybody.
Also, now, are those are the zones that had the worst picture in our previous?
Yes,
Right.
generally.
and the zones with the greatest density of properties.
Yes. And one that's isolated, they're not all adjacent to each other.
Right.
Two of them are adjacent and they scored high, so, they were grabbed because of that. And then one zone is isolated from them hydrogeologically, so that's why we're targeting that one as well. I shouldn't say isolated, just opposites. They're not down gradient of it. They're not, I don't know how to describe it exactly. They're not impacted by each other.
They're in a different watershed.
They're in a different watershed. Right. Exactly. Same aquifer, different watershed.
Okay, so look for the letter. Get back to me if you're okay. Silence means yes. The letter goes out from the Water Advisory Committee. It invites people to participate in this program. Participation is voluntary. It's going to go out to everybody in the zones. We're expecting, like, based on past experience, 50, 60% response rates. That's going to get us half the people in the zones. That's kind of our target, is to get up around 50 to 60% to make sure that it's statistically valid by zone. Letter's going to go out by the end of March. People are going to fill out the form, send their check in the self-addressed stamped envelope that's going to Suffolk County. When Suffolk County pulls the test, they'll get back to us and say, we tested Mrs. Smith on Maple Street. We won't know Mrs. Smith's results, but we will know that Mrs. Smith got tested. And then we can cut the $100 check to Mrs. Smith out of the $25,000 appropriation. So,
And when we have results, they'll be tagged by zone only or zone, I guess, zone and street, but.
they'll definitely be tagged by zone. If they tag them by street,
They always do,
Zone and street.
zone and street, but not street number.
Not street number.
Right. And then you have been,
I'll be trying to break that out into statistically analyzable chunks.
correct,
Right.
because you're the data scientist.
I have
Amongst-
databases and spreadsheet
Okay.
experience.
Fine. All right. So that's how we're proceeding with that.
Go back to the saltwater thing.
Excuse me.
Can we go back to Dan's project?
Yes.
How would we feel about giving him some higher range test kits?
I don't know what you mean by higher range.
They'll go exceed the 200 ppm, maybe go up to 400 ppm or so. They seem to be wanting to go further in terms of analysis to figure out how bad the 200 ppm sites were. Because right now, that's their cutoff. They can only go up to 200. Should we give them a 400
God.
ppm kit?
Why? It's some kind of a color test and it just goes to 200. And if it's over 200, it's the
That's
same
the
color.
current one that they have now. It
Yeah.
just stops at
Sensitive
200.
Right.
But Aquachem make
Okay.
400 ppm. They make a whole range of kits. So if they,
What's your recommendation?
if they're willing to do the work, give them the tools.
Okay, so how much are we spending? Is it this kind of money? A
Yeah,
couple hundred
this-
bucks?
This kind
That kind of money?
40 bucks a kit, plus the shipping is worse than anything else. I mean, it's 30 bucks shipping.
They don't still have leftover samples they would, you think, reach back out to the people?
No, they have, done.
They have more from the same
They still have
sample.
sample material.
They can just test it
They can
again.
go back and retest them. The problem samples, they can retest it with
Yeah.
higher
Yeah, that's great.
range kits. And they seem to be wanting to do the work, so,
That's fine with it.
okay.
Okay.
We'll set that in
Let's
motion.
keep them engaged.
Yeah, the recent kit, that was 125 bucks for the box of 40 kits,
Okay, fine.
another 125. Another.
When we have a final of this letter that's going out, it'd be good to share it with Dan too, so he can talk to his kids about it.
About this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I was also thinking whether maybe maybe we suggest to Jason Heim at the county that he pick up some of these kids as interns or whatever else to pull some of these samples. And I would think they'd jump at it.
they have a protocol.
Okay,
Yeah.
Yeah, Paige, I know Paige, and
Yeah,
she comes and she's very, very particular on the sample techniques and,
oh, they have to be, okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
Clean samples, clean.
Yep, chain of custody, all that stuff, right.
Good idea.
Okay. Next up, Know Your Water Weekend.
Right. So let me quickly set the stage so everybody again recalls, which I think everyone does, what we're trying to do. So the idea was pick a date. I would say my guess somewhere around 8 locations around town. Set up an easel with a poster and 1 or 2 people at each, and engage the comings and goings from stores, post offices, farm stands, whatever that happens to be. The idea was to engage them verbally, but also to hand out a 1-pager that also attaches at the back of it the Suffolk County test form, so they have that in hand. We've already had comments on the 1-pager, so as far as I'm concerned, that's finalized and can be used and ready to go.
That's this document.
No, this is actually, it's what this would lead you to. Let's take it
Yeah.
a step at a time.
So the 1-pager was the longer, hey,
Yes.
you know.
Is it not in our kit? It's not.
No, that was shared like, a while ago
Yeah.
at the last.
Right, I read that.
But yeah, you commented on it, Meg comment on it. And
Okay.
so I shared it in advance of the last meeting. So it's in that back in March, but it essentially is final or near final. What we want to do is pick a date. Peter and I have discussed that we don't think coordinating with the Green Committee event and fair, which is very late August, is really the right time slot
Okay.
for getting attention. So we'd like to target July 27th, I think it was, which is a Saturday, a 1-day event. We're talking something like, 8 to 2 o'clock, and we'll stage volunteers and create a schedule and that whole thing. That's another, part of the process that we can begin. And then we can have a rain date the following Saturday, August 1st, I think it is. And so if everybody's comfortable with that, we're going to plan to set that in motion. Meg, I'd like to reach out to Chief Reed and try to get the electric signs for that weekend on his schedule so that that's all lined up. So if that's all agreed, then
Let me just, in terms, just while you're talking about schedule for a second.
Yep.
And so that works well. One of the things that's not on our today agenda, which is fine, is that we're working in collaboration, Sean and I are working in collaboration with the Green Committee and the Conservation Advisory Committee to have an event on June, it looks like maybe June 9th at the Presbyterian Church, which is a natural landscaping event. And
a follow on to the one we had last year that you
so
enjoyed.
Perfect, it was
Perfect.
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 Yeah,
we're
right?
doing a repetition of
Yep.
that. So far, the discussion has been about natives, but there's been, there was this recent Long Island Water seminar about microplastics and for PFAS in fertilizers that can be used. And so I think we want to broaden the topic a little bit, and we'll be continuing to have conversations about that. That's June. This would then be July, toward the end of July, then we have the Green Expo toward the end of August. So the idea
Right.
is to sort of keep an events thing
Yep.
going. All right. Anyway.
So,
Wait, I'll get to it.
okay, fine.
So we have the date. The last part of it is one, clearly reaching out to volunteers and creating a schedule. And Peter and I will do that, and we'll create a methodology to do that, including the kids. We want to create about 10 of those, probably posters, waffle board, kind of things. They're about $45-ish a pop. So between printing several hundred physical things to hand out, as well as the posters, we're probably talking about a budget of about $1,000, if we're comfortable with that. We'll what Peter has there with the scanner is what is the beginnings of what a poster would look like, with the idea that the scan would take you to the same document that we're handing out. And so we can try to dress it up, we can, whatever, it's the beginnings, but we want to finalize that in the next month and get them printed and have kind of all the materials ready, and then it's just about scheduling. So that's what that document is. It would be an eventual poster.
So does that get you somehow to the Suffolk County form?
It would, because the document that we're handing out references the form and has a link, but clearly that's physical. But that would take you to the document, which would have a link to the Suffolk
Which is
County.
highlighted in red, but should be blue and underlined, but that's basically, so, I mean,
So you're not going to be handing it out, they got to go print it out.
We are handing it out.
The form.
One page.
attached to our webpage,
Yep.
and this scan should take you right to it.
But the hand,
So we're having a handout with a one pager of what the hell we're talking about. Attached to that is a copy of the application. The scan will take you to that same document with a link to the Suffolk County form.
So they can
Just-
get it a couple
So
of
you can get a couple different ways, right?
Okay.
I used a cheap lawn sign company for the water testing, so if you wanted to do lawn
Yeah.
signs.
And we're just looking for anything. And unfortunately, everything I've looked at, whether you go to Staples versus online versus whatever, but send it, if we, cheaper the better, if they have any decent,
Wasn't, I think it was $60 for 10, I think.
yeah, show it to me. I mean, I haven't found that many cheap alternatives of something that's sturdy, but if there's one.
It's a wireframe and a plastic sleeve, slips
Uh-huh.
put it at the dump and other places around town.
Okay. Yeah, send it to me if you will, because that even maybe,
Town property.
whether we supplement the one with the easel or, and put some around.
This would go on the street
Yep. Yeah.
for the event.
Yeah, you can also get, so that instead of it being plastic, it can be paper, like a heavy duty, like paper that you put on the metal frame. Might be a little more environmentally. But it's
Friendly, yeah.
You were my glasses. It would save you 3 drops.
many priorities.
3 drops of oil to make the.
So many priorities. So if we're good with the budget, we're good with the date, Peter and I will get working on formatting a poster and, getting those printed and the beginnings of kind of coordinating a schedule and people and all of that, which, can come in.
But I do want to point out that we're starting to put, and there's going to be more, some pressure on layout of the Water Advisory Committee page. So that it's, that we're having a lot of things hanging off of the Water Advisory Committee page. And that's good. I don't think that's a bad thing, just that we want to be in communication with you and with Christina about and Jessica about actually getting those things implemented into the Water Advisory Committee page so that you can scan this and go right sort of 3 layers deep into the Shelter Island town and skip all of that and be right at the information panels that you need.
Okay.
So that's now we got a day, we're in motion. We will
Good.
get to the next level of,
Saturday, July 27.
yep, rain date the following Saturday.
Okay.
Or Johnny, 25th, I think it is.
I was gonna say, the 27th is a Monday, so
25th and then the 1st, I think.
Okay. All right. 9, pharmaceuticals.
Right, so
Right.
I've gone through a few rounds of emailing all of you, like the thinking on the text. I've been including Lisa Shaw, who originally did
Yep.
this poster. She came back to me with, even less is more. And so I circulated the change for the poster in an email just recently
I
to
thought it
all
was
of
fine.
you, and it's very simple. It's basically changing the part that's underneath the big graphic to read safely discard unused medications, bullet point, blue drug deposit boxes are located in the police department and off-island pharmacies. Not saying which, but I know I've been to several, and I know that typically they're available in the pharmacies. Local drug stores will both deliver and pick up meds. I at least have confirmed that with Sag Harbor Pharmacy and Colonial Drugs. that are doing the online island delivery. Free, easy-to-use disposal kits are provided by the town. The police let me know that also the senior center, they're available. Meg, do you know, if I wanted to come into the town hall and get a drug disposal kit, would I just be able to walk up to the clerk, or?
Yes.
So just
You just
the
walk up.
normal thing you would do coming in to do anything in town,
You just walk up and.
right?
ask if
So we
they
should
have-
be good with this kind of language. It should be true. So Lisa's in Canada till tomorrow, but I think that I could move her on doing a new HEIC file, a new graphics file, and then we could do new printings of the posters that are accurate as of today. The other thing that I circulated was an information page about they're called Deterra, which already has a little bit of a deterrent. However, we're trying to kind of remove the police department flavor from the flyer for these kits. So I distributed that. I don't know, should I share it on screen? It's not very long, or read it, or you guys have seen it. I just kind of want to get approved, it's a pretty simple. Should I?
I
Am I
thought
able?
that was a very friendly rewrite.
Good. Well, so here, am I able to share?
I'm giving you.
You're giving me access to share? So then I'll quickly just throw that up on the screen. So the new, I'm not getting graphically fancy about this or anything. It's got the Shelter Island town logo at the top, keep our aquifer free of pharmaceutical contamination, and then letting people know Shelter Island provides free, easy to use, activated carbon drug neutralization kits to help you safely dispose of expired medications. Environmentally responsible, effective method, permanently deactivates most drugs. There's a typo, actually, it should be deactivates. Prevent misuse, protect pets and children, and keep our drinking water safe. You can pick up drug neutralization kits at Town Hall, the Senior Center, and Island medical offices. I don't know if that last is true. And things are so, maybe we should leave off Island medical offices for now, because we don't know what's going on with the Island medical offices. Quick how it works, and then there's a scan to the video that the police department has provided. It's on YouTube that Deterra provides, that shows you easily how to use the kit. So this again would be something to hang off of the Water Advisory Committee site, and have a line on the Water Advisory Committee about drug disposal, on the main Water Advisory Committee page about drug disposal.
And this is not the poster. The poster's something different
The poster is,
and to be used differently?
yeah, the poster, we already have it's just we're updating the poster. So as to, let me just pull up the poster actually. Flyer. So the poster was this thing. Let's go back to Zoom and share.
Okay, I closed my previous window. Share. Why my mic is on, but let's turn it.
It's like you're singing to us.
So this is the post, and then. Am I turned up? No.
Just your mind.
I got it. Okay, so yeah, here's the poster. And we're just changing the lines on the bottom here. the Heights Pharmacy no longer exists.
Right, right. Just updating that.
Yeah, just updating it, and I'm sort of de-emphasizing the thing about, syringes. Because it's not the relevant information. So that's the 3 bullet points that I just read out a moment ago.
So that will send you to the same places as the others, to get that back, to get that kit.
To get the kit, yes, so that, this will say, yes, it'll say exactly what we were just saying, which was.
Right, okay.
Where you can get it at the police department, also on pharmacies.
Yep.
Local drugstores will pick up, anyway.
So no one wants to drink their neighbor's
Yeah,
medications.
I mean, I don't.
Points you to the disposal
Yeah,
kit and the
it's
proper
just,
disposal.
it's just, I mean, what felt bad to me was people will take a look at that and say, go to the pharmacy.
Yeah, exactly.
This is not a working island.
No.
So we want to have a poster that's speaking to today.
Yep. Okay.
But I would like to get that in motion right away. We'll need to do, we'll have, presumably, at our next meeting, we'll have an updated version of that graphic. And then we just need a small amount of money to print out however many we're gonna have. We have one, there's one out in the hall out there, as it is right now. But we would like to have those at key places, so that'll be another task, is to figure out what all the key places to hang a poster are.
Okay. All right, good. Next, Sean, Irrigation Subcommittee.
I'll defer to Meg. She has the,
So
Most
right
relevant
now, we have the first round of sort of like minor changes to the code at the town board level. We're trying to update the permitting process for grandfathered irrigation, new turf irrigation, and we're adding a permit for drip irrigation. So historically, there hasn't really been a permit required for drip irrigation, and we're adding that in so that we have some record of where there's drip irrigation and who the primary contact is should something happen to that. If a squirrel were to chew through it and now it's shooting water all over the yard, we'll know who to contact and how to get in touch with people. It'll also help kind of give us an idea of how much irrigation is being used island-wide, because we really don't know, aside from these grandfathered systems that we know about and the few new turf irrigation systems that are on cisterns that we know about. We don't really know, where there's drip irrigation and whatnot. It was kind of brought to our attention a couple different times that drip irrigation is not as much of a risk as turf irrigation because it's a much slower draw on the well, it's a slower, so there's not as much demand, there's less chance of upconing. But we do want to make sure that we have some means of getting in touch with people if their system's going sideways. If we receive complaints from neighbors, we'll know who to follow up with. And I think it will help kind of give the town a better understanding of what's going on, give the building department an easier way to handle complaints when it comes to irrigation, because more people complain about drip because they see it. And it'll also help us implement future changes to the code if we kind of know where everything is.
Yeah, to my eye, that's the most significant thing, is that we have a relationship with the landscapers, even if they're doing but to that end, it's extremely important to make it easy to get compliance.
Right, that's the goal.
Right.
The goal is not to make it complicated, but to make it more streamlined and simple. So the grandfathered irrigation permit renewals were always very complicated, but they never changed year to year. So asking for a survey, it's like all this stuff that wasn't really necessary after the initial application. So we've streamlined the process. If there's any change to the system whatsoever, they have to come back with like a new map, a new survey, new, inspections and all this stuff. But for the most part, we want to make it user-friendly so people are willing to do it. We want compliance, we want people to participate in the program, because that's better than not participating in the program and doing things on the slide.
can you just remind me, Meg, because I don't remember having looked at the wording. Are you wording the permit such that starting the effective date, any new need a permit, or starting the effective date, any, and, you know, existing or new need it, and you're hoping people will eventually catch up and
I
put a
think we're
permit in
gonna-
place?
Yeah, I think we're gonna start with new, because it's hard to say, to catch everybody retroactively, but annually, there's a renewal requirement. So if you have it, you need to renew it come the new year. So we're gonna try to start off that way. It's gonna be really hard to demand retroactive permitting on drip irrigation.
I mean, if
That might
at the moment, if it's
But let's say,
information purposes for keeping a record, you know, clearly people may not out themselves, but that's the best way if you're really going to eventually get people like a full
well,
record.
and it's not even like they're doing something wrong, because technically they're allowed to have it. It's just a matter of getting the
Yeah.
record up to date. So, you know, also if someone complains, then you can say, hey, just come in, get a permit, give us, you know, your drawing showing where the irrigation is and how much. That should help us get more complete records.
Do we have a next meeting date?
Yeah, so, for the subcommittee,
Irrigation.
no, not yet. I'm gonna set one up. The board is gonna be talking about this on Tuesday. I'm trying to nail down a yes, let's set the hearing. And then there's gonna probably be a special meeting, so we could set the hearing for early April to have the hearing. Because we want to move it quickly so that people can renew their permits. The grandfather permit renewals are historically due in the middle of July. We want to push that to June so that it's before the summer season, before everybody really starts using their systems. Just that way we know that, you know, someone's gone out and looked at them before everybody's turned them on and started using them. So we're gonna try to make that change too in the process. So instead of the middle of July, it's gonna be earlier in June.
But the hearing that you're talking about is just for the irrigation systems or drip irrigation as well?
All great.
All three?
So the change in the permitting
There's a
process.
change in the permitting
Process.
process, which does require a change in the code, because the way the current code reads, it says, drip irrigation in the non-shore areas with 2,500 emitters or less doesn't need a permit. Now we're just saying all drip irrigation needs a permit. And then in the near shore overlay, it was 250 emitters or less doesn't need a permit. We're just saying if you're doing it, you need a permit, period, just because the enforcement of that is impossible. The building department doesn't know how much you buried, how much is under the mulch. They'd have to go and dig it all up, figure out how many feet, how many emitters per foot. It just, the way it's written.
Whether it slips in under the permitted
Yeah,
requiring a
yeah.
permit. Okay, so everything needs a permit. Does everything need a fee?
So the fee structure for grandfathered irrigation is $350 for the application right now. The turf irrigation with a cistern is $100 because there's also cistern permits and a whole bunch of other stuff that goes with it. And then the turf irrigation is $50.
Sorry, no,
the drip irrigation.
irrigation,
My
right?
apologies. Drip irrigation right now is set at $50. And that's to cover the administrative fees and inspection fees if necessary. So those are right now are how it's proposed.
I know the landscapers came back to us thinking that we should be less restrictive in the center.
Right, they made a request that we only require permits for drip irrigation in the near shore overlay. So that's something that the town board is gonna consider, because the subcommittee kind of said, treat everybody the same. We'll just request permits across the board, just make them annual permits. You can renew them or you can, abandon the system with the drip irrigation at the end of a year. Because right now what we allow is temporary drip irrigation for the establishment of plantings for 150 days, which everyone is saying is insufficient, especially depending on the seasonality. So, in the winter, you may not need it, but in the spring, summer, whatever.
For establishing new
For
plants.
establishing new plants. So really the purpose of drip irrigation is to establish new plantings, but depending on the type of planting, it could take up to 3 years to get it solidly established. So the plan was to make it an annual permit And so you would renew it each year as long as you needed it. Once you no longer need it to get the plantings established, then you can abandon that drip irrigation system and you no longer have to renew your permit or pay the $50 each year to renew the permit. So that's kind of the goal.
Right. So again, I would just point out that there's one thing that we have that has only recently kind of crept into the discussion is we should be more sensitive to the peninsular nearshore areas as being the most vulnerable. And we have, in the center, there's, I would argue for making it as inexpensive as possible in the center so it is to get the highest level of compliance, given that in the future we'll need to have know where landscapers are doing things, are fertilizing new plantings and so forth. If we're thinking about concerns about fertilizers containing PFAS and microplastics, and there are options not to use fertilizers and microplastics, which there are, having them in them, having them tell us we're doing new plantings in this area, we're doing new plantings in that area, is really good. So even $50 with, if you have 10 or 20 customers, could be a lot.
Well, I would assume that fee would be passed on to
the customer.
Yeah, and upfront, they just let them know it's a $50 permit to put in the drip irrigation that goes with your trees. I assuming it would get passed on.
Just last comment, consistent with my other one, if you don't want to try to go full retroactive, is that you might consider not just new, but any changes or substantive repairs to existing, right? I mean, if you're putting the irrigation guy on site, you can force them to go through a permit again versus like, I don't go and touch the system, So just finding a way to somehow be able to really find out what's out there.
Okay. Thank you. This has been a journey. So thanks. Sean, you again.
Everything is a journey.
Nature Conservancy.
Yeah, it's making a little bit of progress, and it's going to be a slow crawl. I actually finally made my way to the Historical Society and got some information. And Meg, I realized that you're probably a good person because you have so much knowledge about the island that I should chase you. But historically, where there were farmlands on the island near shore, where farmers might have altered marshes or something to create some sort of irrigation using kind of salt water to grow things. So now I have a sense of where, so certainly Westmoreland, somewheres around West Neck and what have you. The trick is finding where there's still marsh there, that there's something to restore. And a lot of it's, I'm trying to find some old timers, and you're not an old timer, but you're knowledgeable as old timers of where those spots exist. Because if I'm able to get this scientist to engage, I want to take her to a spot and say, is this a fertile place to look at doing it? And I can't drag her all the way around. So it would be like a couple of places. And I'm trying to find those places as a starting point that look like they would be ripe for, some intervention. And then just lastly, and Peter touched on it, not to get ahead of ourselves, but Tim Purcell was kind enough to direct us to this presentation about fertilizers that was done by Long Island Water something. Alarming, really, and very quickly, they pointed out a few things, that some fertilizers have a nitrogen of greater than 12%, and that most of at least in their view and their understanding, most of that nitrogen is not going to be taken up. It's just excessive, and so invariably it runs off. And so can you apply a fertilizer that just has a lower, because you're overkill, it's overkill, that many fertilizers contain PFAS just because of the nature of, what they're putting into it. And that lastly, a lot of the slow release fertilizers actually rely on a very thin plastic coating on that's, I think when you see the difference between like a grainy fertilizer versus a pebble fertilizer, the pebbly ones, which are usually slow release, actually have a little plastic coating on them. And they're enough that it cracks open to release the fertilizer, but that plastic is essentially a forever plastic. And so they stay in your lawn, they get into runoff, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So one of the things we discussed and will
They're very light and so
blow
they stay
with the
on the
wind.
surface, yes, and they blow everywhere else, right.
So you're contaminating everyone around you, it runs off, what have you. So one of the things that we talked about, again, we'll come back next meeting with whether we believe it's reasonable I'm sure there are a lot of landscapers that know a lot of this. Are they as sensitized to, some of it? Do our local hardware stores, which I know they've stopped selling, like things like Roundup, and they're, have migrated some of do they understand, some of the differences? The presentation actually included, I think it was 9 different suggestions of different fertilizers that are actually free of
PFAS and organic.
they have lower nitrogen and they're free of all this stuff. I don't recognize any of the names. I don't know how easily accessible they are, but we talked about, and again, not a conclusion of, would it be reasonable or I've brought it up, not speaking for anyone else, would it be reasonable for the WAC to write a short letter to share with landscapers and with the local hardware stores and the like, saying this is new information from a presentation that alarmed us. We want to make you aware of it. We'd encourage you to migrate towards eco-friendly brands and things taking this into consideration. To me, that's a no-brainer.
Tim was also suggesting like directly approaching Stephanie at the hardware store.
But I mean, there's some people that you would, you could just talk to as well as, but I think, for our landscape list of people or what have you, some of them may not be as attuned to, they're probably very aware of nitrogen. Do they realize there's plastics in the slow release when they're using it and those things like that? And so I think it'd be helpful to share that information and encourage them to some of these other brands.
I didn't get through all of that video, but what I
You
saw.
got the gist of it. I mean, that kind of what it says, yeah.
Well, and
online.
Sean also shared, I don't know if with all of us, but an article in Long Island Newsday saying that testing of produce from farm stands on the East End is coming up with significant PFAS in the produce, which is to be expected because it's throughout the environment. And I thought that the important thing to just for all of us to keep in mind is that while there's no safe level of PFAS, you can't drive it down far enough. Every increment in the amount of PFAS you're consuming is an increase in risk. So it matters that you filter your water, even if you buy a tomato at the farm stand and there's some PFAS there.
It is something that I think increasingly we will need to make part of our education. I don't know if we're ready to take on yet another, but trying to, because there is laundry detergents that have PFAS and things like that. And there are brands that, you can buy to avoid it, and just making people aware of that is,
I thought at one point we were working on a list of products that did not contain PFAS and I thought that we had worked on that, no?
No, I mean, maybe.
Well, where the conversation went, and Greg had circulated some information as well about this, was that New York State has, been moving aggressively to remove PFAS. Actually, I mean, one of the things that's kind of interesting, popcorn keeps coming up as one of the things, popcorn bags. Apparently, there's been a big transition in that industry in 2023, 24 timeframe, and PFAS that's showing up in your popcorn bags now is just because somebody's got an old. The industry itself has been removing PFAS from popcorn bags.
I forget the organization, but they had, this is the really bad, this is a news piece that they put out that said, this is really dirty stuff. And 2 years later, they were the stars. They reduced, they did a fabulous job.
Yeah, there has been a transition, and look, in the end, having a state like New York saying, having New York State saying PFAS has to be removed from your products is the key thing to getting anywhere.
Yep.
And until then, filter your water, and, there's a degree of risk in all.
I mean, clearly all of this is connected, all the things we're doing, and testing hopefully will really drive this conversation. So when somebody gets that thing that says, we're telling you have PFAS, it's below whatever, but we're telling you anyway, hopefully they'll start asking questions. And so, it'll be natural for us to lean into, more of that conversation.
And there's a difference between popcorn bags and laundry detergents and fertilizers. So
Pizza boxes. Danger, pizza.
well, it's more likely on a fertilizer pack a fertilizer distribute, look, I mean, if you're trying to do slow release, which makes some sense, but you can't use plastic, there's a push me, pull you involved, so.
Yeah, I mean, you would think that that's an easy one. Like, even if I'm still going to use fertilizer, maybe we stay away from the slow releases ones,
Okay. We've reached the end. Any other business?
The end of what?
The agenda.
Well, I don't know how we can influence the state to get, you got the thing I sent around about the PFAS.
Well, the state's already been.
But how do you get Suffolk County to be because they're doing Dutchess and Putnam now. How do we get Suffolk County on that?
Is that a New York State DEP decision, or is that a Suffolk County decision?
No, the state is offering home filtration for PFAS, but they're not, and significant.
Darn right it's significant. It's
But
like $10,000 for the whole Ohio system.
Exactly, but they're only doing Dutchess and Putnam. How do we get Suffolk County to
Be part of that.
Yeah.
Good thing to start examining.
I don't know if we can.
That is worth a read.
How we can maybe even influence the county to carve out Shelter Island as a special case.
Just reach out to
Let's
the assemblyman or whatever.
Exactly.
Just reach out to the assemblyman and point out and say they're doing it in Dutchess and whatever. Is this even in your sites? I think that's easy.
Claiming budget is the constraint.
Yeah.
A little activism there might not pay off. Take a look at it.
Okay.
You just sent that out, right?
I just sent it out.
Okay, yeah.
It came in this weekend from
Yes.
New York State Department
quite good.
of Environmental Conservation. Just came out, so I sent it around. But no, I think that's more political than anything else, but still.
All right. Anything else?
To adjourn.
Anything else for the good of the order?
Good.
Motion to adjourn?
Six
Thank you
minutes to
very
go.
much.
Thank you.